right, welcome back. Let's evaluate some expressions. Again, these are just some examples for you to look back on. So, A is going to equal -3, B will equal 8, and C will equal -4. I'm going to tell you, it's easier sometimes to just go ahead and think of these as in parentheses because they have that negative, so we can make sure we take the negative right along with it, okay? So I'm going to just substitute these in, so we'll keep the 9. The A will come out and become -3 minus 2 times A, again, is -3 times B, which is 8. Okay, remember from the last page, we need to do groupings. So groupings, we don't actually have to do anything inside the groupings. The parentheses in this case are just being used for multiplication. So positive times a negative is a negative, and that'll be -27. Negative times a negative is a positive 6 times the 8. So we have -27 plus 6 times 8 is 48. And for my final answer, I'll put it over here. We have more positives than we have negatives. So let's see, we have 27, 37, 47 is 20, and then one more. So we have 21 left over. All right, for number 2, A is -3. This is really important that you have it in the parentheses now because there is a difference here. -3 squared means we are squaring the 3 and only the 3. So that equals a negative, and then it's 3 times 3. Okay, so that's a -1. That negative out front is an implied 1. So that would actually equal -9. Now when you have -3 in parentheses, you're saying you're squaring the whole thing. So that equals -3 times -3, which equals a +9. So there is a big difference. So keep that in the parentheses. Plus 7 times C, which is -4 minus 1. So -3 times -3 is a +9 plus 7 times a -4. Oh, and I could have written a negative right there, so I'll just write it here as well. So -28 minus 1. So that looks really weird. Keep in mind that that's the same thing as 9 minus 28 minus 1. I didn't have to have a plus and a negative sign there. All right, I like to go ahead and use the commutative property, actually associative property. I'm going to do this out of order here. And I'm going to add my negatives first. So I have 9 plus -29. Since I have more negatives than I have positives, we end up with -20. All right, number 3, we have absolute values here. So we're going to keep our absolute value signs. And then we have 10 minus 4 times B is 8. Keep those signs until we're done doing whatever is inside the grouping. So we have 10 minus 4 times 8 is 32, and we have more negatives than positives. So that is going to give us a -22. And when we take it out of the absolute value sign, we have 22. So absolute value of -22 is 22. Okay. Over here, let's see, plug in. So we have 2. C equals -4, so we have -4 squared plus 5 times 8 all over -3. I didn't put that in parentheses because there's nothing around it. Okay, so we have 2, and -4 times -4 is 16. Plus 5 times 8, which is 40, all over 3. Finish it over here. 2 times 16 is 32, plus 40, all over 3. And then 32 plus 40 is 72 all over 3. 5, 6, 7, 72 all over 3. And an improper fraction works for me. So we'll leave it right there. And the last row, let's fill this one in. So we have a negative, but C is negative 4, so that's a negative 4. So this negative is not the same as this one, okay? Keep that in mind. That negative stands alone. That negative has to be brought down, and C in itself is negative 4 squared plus 2 times A, which was negative 3, times C, which is negative 4, all over negative 3 minus B, which is 8. Okay, so bringing this negative down again, we have negative, and negative 4 times negative 4 is 16, plus, I'm going to do all of this before I write it down, so 2 times negative 3 is negative 6, negative 6 times negative 4 is positive 24. And then on the bottom, negative 3 plus a negative 8 is negative 11. And on the top, we have more positives than negatives. So let's see, that is 8 more. Oh, yeah, 8 and a negative 11. And that will be my final answer. Now, I put the negative right here on the bottom, but keep in mind that it doesn't matter where the negative is. I could have negative 8 over 11. I could have 8 11ths and make the whole fraction negative, or I can have 8 over 11 and make the 11 negative. This is all the same thing. Textbooks are usually going to do it like this. I tend to write it on the top because when I do it like that, sometimes it blurs in and I forget that it's there. But those are all the same thing. They mean the fraction itself is negative. Okay, going over here, we have negative, and B is 8, so I don't have to put that. Oh, yes, I want to put that in parentheses, squared, because the negative is not being squared. It's only the B that is being squared, okay? Minus 2 square root 7 minus 3, and A is a negative 3. Okay, so this is where you have to be real careful here. So put that 8 in negatives when it are in parentheses. When it comes to a power, it's really nice to keep it in parentheses. So this negative is going to be brought down. What's being squared is the B in this case, which is 8. So 8 times 8 is 64 minus 2, and then we're doing what's under the square root sign. So that is going to be multiplication first, so is 7 times a negative is a positive 9. So let's bring this down. Negative 64 minus 2, and 7 plus 9 is 16. And now under everything under the radical sign is also a grouping. So we have negative 64 minus 2 times, and that will come out. Remember, we have 16. We're looking for, there's an implied 2 here, so 2 of a kind, and that would be 4 times 4. So it comes out as 1 4. Then we have negative 64 minus 2 times 4 is 8. So negative 64 and a negative 8 will leave us with a grand total of negative 72. And that is our final answer.